Today, we're going to talk about how to take a quick lube tech to a master tech. It's a fascinating conversation that Christian and I have about it. I guarantee you're going to take away at least 3 or 4 ideas that are going to inspire you. Then we talk about the fact that it's the summer of fixed ops for all kinds of reasons and much, much more coming up on this edition of Service Drive Revolution. We are in the dawn of a fixed ops revolution. It is time for fixed ops. Never before has fixed ops been more important.
Vital.
And what's funny is, so car sales are down, but people driving is up.
Isn't that confusing?
People are driving everywhere this summer.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
It's an all-time record. And I don't know if that has to do with gas prices or just because flying is up too. It's not like people flying is down, because sometimes that happens in the economy where people are like, we can't afford to fly, but we'll just drive. They're both up. Like, people are just moving around. People want to go.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've been on an empty plane, like where there was a bunch of seats. Almost everyone I get on it says this is a completely full flight kind of thing. Are you seeing that same thing when you're traveling?
Yeah, and knock on wood, all my flights have been on time. I haven't been on a delayed flight in the last 6 flights.
Who are you flying? Alaska?
Delta?
Delta's really done you right.
I don't fly Alaska unless I have to.
Okay. Too close to American?
Nobody cares about this, but in Washington, the Delta, not only is Delta just better, but the gates are next to the door. Alaska has so many gates in Seattle that you could end up on one of those islands where you have to catch the airport
the
subway
bus
system thing.
Or whatever it is. Right?
Yeah, which I hate. So Delta, you're just right there. And it's right by the subway, pop shop.
Yeah, which is a cool little place.
Yeah, inside of the Seattle airport, they have a Sub Pop record store where you can buy vinyl and merch and all kinds of stuff.
I was going to say their vinyl collection's pretty good. But yeah, you say that nobody cares about this, but you know what the first thing when I see someone in public, they're going to be like, hey, so I've been to that Delta terminal. It is really nice. Like, we'll talk about ways to transform your service department. The things you think they don't care about, they care about.
Well, I care about it. I always try to go in there and buy a vinyl or something. It's interesting. Yeah. So, the thing that's funny too about the driving thing is you were doing a thing every summer where you would rent an RV.
Yep.
And then drive around. Did you go to Wyoming?
Yep. So I did Yellowstone.
So your son, you and your now wife, but at the time, girlfriend,
yeah,
would do it. And so where'd you go? Wyoming?
So we did Yellowstone before. We did the Grand Canyon, and we did Sequoia. And
then one of those trips, you came up to Washington to the lake.
And then last summer, we came up that way to, that was the 4th trip.
Oh.
Was coming up to see you.
Well, so that one didn't count?
No, it counts.
But you
said Wyoming. It. Yeah.
You went to Washington.
Also went to Washington through Oregon.
You have to go through Oregon.
I am geographically challenged.
So I was always really impressed that you would do that, but also that to me is a nightmare.
I don't know that when it comes to the travel and that kind of stuff, that we could be further polar opposites. I feel like a lot of the things that I like are they're big no-nos for you. I've learned that throughout the years.
I think too, though, but in me asking you about this, it isn't just that. You're also doing an influence on what you're doing is your parenting.
Yes.
So that does play a role in it, as you're trying to create experiences for him. It's not just about you, because let's just say you didn't have a kid, you might not do it. Or you might not do it as consistently.
For that, for sure. And I would be more apt to fly.
But I gotta say, if I had a kid, I wouldn't do it.
I know you
Wouldn't
wouldn't.
have anything to do with it. I wouldn't want my kids to want to do it.
Yeah.
Well, the worst scenario would be if I did that and then my kid was like, "Can we do that again?" Like,
no,
geez,
we can't.
I created a monster.
But I really do like the, and I don't know how to, I'm sure there's other ways to do this without the pain of the road trip travel. Like I like the no electronics time. I like the kind of having the conversations and doing, I'm probably just reliving my youth a little bit, like doing the thing where,
No air conditioning. You just roll down the windows.
we do air conditioning, but like the license plate game where you try to see if you can find license plates from all 50 states and then trying to guess the capitals and like it's like a little education, but with a little bit of bonding and all that stuff. And I do kind of go into that thing is when he's 30, what is he going to look back on? So I'm trying to like create those moments for him now. So if it's a little bit of the pain of me driving 5,000 miles in 10 days, I'm willing to do that.
Yeah. So my idea of travel, or the way that my mind works, is like I'm like, okay, I'm going to Wyoming. I don't think like, okay, how can I take the longest path to get there? And also, so there's that. Like, I think Wyoming is like what, an hour and a half, 2-hour flight. It's pretty quick.
Yeah, maybe 2 or 3.
How many days does it take to drive there?
It takes me 2 or 3 days to get there.
Yeah, I don't think like, hey, I want to go to Wyoming. Let's see if I can take 2 or 3 days to get there. I just want to get there. So that's the first part of this. The second part of that is when I'm there, I don't want to stay in an RV. I want to stay in a hotel.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so the accommodations and the travel both are just polar opposite. I don't know. With the one I'm thinking efficiency, and then the other one I'm thinking comfort.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not my thing at all.
Yeah.
I'm not a camper.
Your
I'm not
logic
camping.
your logic is noted. Like it's not wrong that why take 3 days to get somewhere you can get in 2 hours doesn't make any sense as I voice it to you. So yeah, you're not wrong.
Yeah, and then also if I was gonna go on a road trip, I like the kind of road trips where you don't have to be anywhere. Like you can, like you roll into a town and you're like, oh, hey, I'd like to stay here a couple days and just see what it's like here, instead of like bombing through all these cool places and you never get to experience them, because there's so many cool towns in America that like have their own story and their own history. And like, I'd rather kind of stay in one place and learn about it versus just bombing through.
Yeah. Whereas I have actually planned out my gas stops. Like it's that bad.
So we're a little different. When it
We're a
comes
little
to
different.
that.
It's okay.
But I do think the parent thing plays into that. Like that's a great experience for him to have.
Yeah. That's what I keep thinking of. And he's got a pretty bad memory, but he always remembers these trips. So, and I don't know if that's the thing, is I've just got to make it so shockingly terrible for him.
Well, also like in the thing, because have you been to all 50 states yet?
I'm missing like 4.
What are the 4?
I'm missing Alaska, Maine, Rhode Island, and like a random one, Arkansas. I've never been to Arkansas.
Clinton. I always think Clinton when you think Arkansas.
Yeah, but isn't that a weird spot for me not to have been?
Yeah, because it's kind of right there.
Yeah.
But that is one thing that most people don't travel anymore, especially kids. They don't travel. And like in doing what we do, like you get to see.
Oh, I'm so grateful for that part of it.
You get to see here and Canada. Like I've seen some of the most incredible parts of Canada. Like Canada is such a great place.
Didn't you rate Calgary as one of your favorite cities in the world?
It's up there. It's my favorite city in Canada.
Yeah.
I don't know in the world if it would rank.
I don't know either, because I know that there's a lot of cities in Europe that you like, but you always have talked really highly of Calgary.
What's the greatest city in America? It's not even close.
Oh gosh. New York.
Yeah, Manhattan. It's nothing. And then London, Calgary would be Canada. Yeah. But
what's your past London? What's second for you over in Europe?
Barcelona.
Yeah.
I've been to Barcelona
Spain.
a bunch of times.
And then Rome you liked or didn't like?
I don't know. Italy's a little, I don't know.
I would say that other than London, by far, the next closest city is Barcelona, where you've talked about like your experience at Barcelona. There's something rich about the culture and the museums and all the stuff that's there that...
I've never been to Tokyo. That's on the list.
Didn't that sound fun when Michael was talking about his trip?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's cool. More stuff that we think people don't care about, but yet they might.
You can't drive to Barcelona, though.
Not yet. Not yet.
You got to fly.
Amphibious vehicles.
It's a long flight, too. Yeah, so we're a little different there. But the good news is more people are thinking like you than me, and people are driving. And when people drive more, cars and trucks break more or need more maintenance, but the service and parts departments become very popular in people's lives.
They are going to have captive audiences is what I like to say.
And so, you know, any sort of marketing stuff, I'd be like, you know, get ready for your road trip in my marketing. And, you know, I would scale up to be ready for drive-ins, you know, out of towners, all of that.
You know what my favorite thing about that, the road trip marketing is that it is applicable to everyone. Like,
well, it makes them think about the thing that they're looking forward to, too. So it's,
and that the vehicle is,
you're tying the two together psychologically.
It is. That's my favorite marketing campaign I think that we've ever worked with was the vacation one. Do you remember that? It was, gosh, it must have been 2016 or something like that, where we did that thing where we came up with the story in the 3 sections.
Oh, in one of our coaching meetings, we had the managers write a 3-stage email sequence.
Yeah.
Because everybody was doing the buy 3 tires, get 1 free. And we're like, no, you got to tell a story.
Yeah.
And the one that won was a manager from a Nissan store that did a thing on his son's baseball and going to the
like a travel
World
thing or something like that? Or that they were going
Minor
to
League World Series or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, it was great.
I wrote mine on forgetting to pack underwear.
What's in the news?
Okay, so as you kind of foreshadowed earlier, car sales are slowing as that early tariff binge trails off. I don't know if you remember that happening like back in March and April. People were kind of like panic buying when the tariffs first got announced. So that is all kind of cooled off, and it's affecting a lot of the manufacturers.
I was thinking about this. Like, I have friends that are affluent that could afford to buy anything they wanted that aren't buying cars. Like, they're driving their car and keeping it. And I don't know what that is. Because usually they would just get a new one. They wouldn't even think about it. And people are driving their cars longer. Like,
you know what? I even fell into that category too, because I've been leasing for as long as I can remember, and I bought this thing. So
people are changing.
Yeah.
Behaviors are changing.
Well, I thought that mine was also kind of price driven too, that the lease wasn't any cheaper than buying it anyways. So I think that might be driving the market to change, because it used to be that a lease was a wonderful deal. Like it almost didn't make mathematical sense where you could lease a $70,000 car for $600 a month or whatever it is. And now it's like you can lease a $70,000 car for $2,000 a month.
There's any correlation between a midlife crisis and leasing a sports car and getting married and now buying an old person car?
That's a lot of stages in a very short amount of time, isn't it?
Do you think there's any correlation between the midlife crisis and the sports car?
There might be.
And then leasing?
Yes.
Now you're buying. Marriage is buying, isn't it?
Right? Well, I'm old now.
It's a long-term commitment.
Yeah, so maybe that's it. Maybe it's me personally and the midlife thingy going on. I didn't feel any different turning 50. Remember you tried to skip 50?
I felt different turning 50.
Did you?
Yeah.
I feel
30 and 50 I think were the hardest.
Yeah, I do remember 30. Like 30 felt like in the end of an era for sure.
Feels like 60s on the horizon.
It doesn't feel so old anymore. 50 doesn't feel old. 60 doesn't feel old to me. But I don't know. There's a lot of things going on that I think that this generation of people is going to live way, way longer than some of the predecessors. Just the way that people look at 50 versus what they looked like at 50, a couple of decades ago.
I'm in these circles with these doctors that are always like, if you can live another 5 years, you can live forever. And they say that every 5 years.
Yeah.
Like, when are you guys going to figure it out?
Just hold out a little bit longer. But yeah, so there's definitely a slowdown. Like there was for a while in March, April, we were headed for like kind of almost a record pace in sales. That has cooled off significantly in May. And I think that
people just aren't spending money.
Yeah. From what I heard, just with talking with prospects and clients, that this month feels like a pretty significant slowdown. Then there's definitely, like all things, there's winners and losers. But even in a market that's cooling down, Toyota, Ford, Honda, Hyundai, Kia going up. The rest of the market's going down. Huge cuts from EVs, like a 25% decrease in EVs, and hybrid sales are going up. So people are shifting from the electric to the hybrid. So that's happening, which is why you're seeing like Toyota, Honda, Ford, because they've all got Hyundai, Kia, all have hybrids. So
that probably has a lot to do with Trump too.
Oh, I think he's affecting the car market in a crazy way, unlike any president I've ever seen.
Drill, baby, drill.
Drill, we're going to drill, baby, drill, he says. So funny. But yeah, so market's cooling, sales not as much, which will mean people hold on to their cars for a longer period of time, which is just great news for you folks in service and parts. And then the last thing, speaking of service and parts,
proof that fixed ops is the star of the show.
Yeah, so I have never seen this before. Maybe if I'm wrong, put it in the chat if you remember a year that this happening. Automotive News ranked the top 100 dealership groups by service and parts. You ever seen this before?
I've seen that they do the numbers, but I don't remember it being a standalone.
Yeah, so it's its own list. And essentially the whole article talks about how this is the fixed ops time to shine, the golden era for fixed ops. The list is kind of interesting to me too, in terms of who's number one. So you know that there's one dealer group in the country that is like 200 dealers ahead of everybody else in terms of dealership count.
Are you talking about AutoNation?
No, the one above them. In dealer count.
Who's that?
Lithia.
Oh.
So it's very interesting to me. They're number one in dealership count. They're number 3 on this list. But then it started to make sense, because I don't know if you remember this from a while back. The Brian DeBoer, I think, is the CEO, and he kind of did a stern message to like all the fixed ops managers in the Lithia group that you got to get your stuff together. What did he say?
Like, you're gonna get it together, you're gonna get out?
Yeah, it was really shortened to the point.
I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, so he shifted his focus.
It's an interesting thing to do that too. Like, remember when Bill Parcells would do that in his press conferences, where he would call out his players in the press conference? It's a style.
Well, for him, I feel like it worked. For Parcells,
I feel like their problem is they grew too fast.
Oh yeah,
it's hard to grow that fast and keep everything in line.
If you look at like their dealer count from 2000 to 2025, it's like a this.
Yeah, you make compromises when you're growing that fast.
Yeah, so that probably, it's, take it for what it's worth, probably is the right answer to this. But I do like that he's kind of changing his focus to a fixed kind of thing. But there was, there's a lot of stores on here in the top 10 that don't have, like the number 8 group is Morgan Automotive, and they have 70 stores, and they're ahead of stores that have like.
Where's Van Tile on there?
Man, do I wish I had my glasses. What's Van Tile also called? Do they have a different name? Is it Sonic or
Group? Buffett bought them. Berkshire Hathaway.
And that's different than Asbury. Like, I'm so sorry, I don't know the groups, but
it might not be on there.
Might not be
those
on there.
Those lists are only of the people that report.
That's true.
So everybody doesn't report.
So they're missing, but you got AutoNation is the number one in service and parts revenue. Penske's right behind him. Lithia, Hendrick, Asbury, Group 1, Sonic, Morgan. It's a pretty big list. But yeah, it's
Fixed ops.
fixed ops, and it's billions and billions of dollars.
Drill, baby, drill.
Drill, baby, drill. Let's do that. So that is that's the news for today.
So how to get lube techs to become master techs. And the thinking behind this was that we kind of hear that a lot, right?
Yeah, that there's this gap between like the people that have been there 25 years, they're master techs, they're great, everything like that. And then there's like this whatever you want to call
Purgatory?
it, like a purgatory area where like there should be a lot more B and like C plus techs, but it's like master tech, lube tech, and then there's the ravine that's in between. And the thing that I keep getting asked, like, how do I fill that gap? Because I think people are feeling that pressure. And then they're trying to recruit, and all they're getting is people that are what they would call it, they would say are lube techs, but they're looking for that B, which I think, I don't know what you think, but in today's, like the climate that we're in, I think B and C techs are super valuable.
Yeah.
Just because the way that the cars are built and everything like that, there's not as much brain surgery going on as there used to be. And B and C techs are worth their weight.
And I would say that it should take a year for a quick lube tech to become a C tech, and not that, 2 years for them to become a B.
Don't you think that even in that, like that one statement is that you're better off than 70% of the other stores out there just coming up with what's the time frame supposed to be like?
Yeah. And I would also say that, when we come into a store to help turn it around, we're kind of forced to hire techs. We're really good at hiring techs, but that's a Band-Aid in a sense. If I was running a store, I would probably rarely hire techs. I would be growing my own. And so the real fix long-term is to grow your own. Like, we can go in and hire a bunch of techs because nobody's done it for a while. But the truth is, really, you should be growing your own. And so by growing your own, it means that young kids are coming in and you're holding on to them. They're not leaving. And, a lot of stats in our industry would say that 60% of those kids leave in the first 2 years because there isn't a plan in place and nobody quite understands how to move them from a quick lube tech to a master tech. And so we have some ideas here. The first one is to have a real career path.
This is something you made fun of me for at one point in time. Do you remember?
Well, yeah. And, credit to the way I think is I would rather win than be right.
100% because yes.
And so the thing that, we learned out in the field is that giving these kids a career path. And so one of the things that would happen with them is they would see a shop foreman that had been there a long time. They would say like, oh, this guy's been here 25 years. He's not going anywhere. There's no path for me. And so you have to, from day one, you have to show them a path and you have to paint a picture that they can grow. And then you have to develop a system that you're touching them along the way. And then you manufacture bumps in the road that are the wins, right? So it's like in the system that was devised that I made fun of, it's like every 2 or 3 months they're getting a raise and a promotion. And so like you're a quick lube, it's like karate and like you're a yellow belt with 3 stripes kind of a thing. Like but it keeps them on a path and it gives them something to achieve, and they're always seeing progress. And on the other side, and the thing that's lacking more than anything else is it forces the manager to be having these conversations. It forces the manager to pay attention and be involved with them, where in most situations, like there's the stall get to work, and there isn't this personal attention or involvement or focus on their career. And so more than anything is it's showing the younger, quick lube tech a career path, but it's creating a system where the manager has to be involved and be active and intentional in that. And that's a win-win, right? When the manager and the employee both share a common goal and a common interest. And so this kind of forces that, right?
I love that.
What was it? I don't know. Last time I looked, was it 17 different stages we have in that?
Yeah, there might be more than that, but I want to say that there was 9 or 10 just within like that express level, like that Lube Tech level. There was 9 or 10. It might be 17, and it works.
Yeah, no, it's a complete 180 as far as turnover, as far as loyalty, and the other thing too is they want to learn then. Like they want to get better because they're vested in a career path. And when you're vested in a career path, you want to, buy more tools, learn more stuff. It's, it's a win-win on all sides.
Do you, or would you, when you have like that focus on the grow your own and like that this person, when you're kind of bringing them in, they're going to be someone in 8 to 10 years that's still on your team. How would you interview for that? Like, is there anything that, because I would guess you would ask questions different than our listeners. Like when you're thinking about bringing that person onto your team, that not just to change oil and do tires, but you're thinking that big, long career thing, would you interview any differently?
Yeah, well, I would say that the thing that you do different there is you're selling them on a career path from day one and seeing how they respond. But as the leader, you have to implant the future. Like you have to talk to their future self. Right?
Yeah.
And so, things that we've learned over the years in that too, and I think that's a great question, is like, if you hire somebody from out of town, most of the time they'll end up moving back home. So you want to hire local, you want to be involved locally, right? Because they usually end up going home. Boys usually end up going home to mom, in a sense.
We had that so much in Chicago because we had that big UTI school right by where I worked. And we interviewed a lot of those kids. And you are so right. They went back to Montana. They went back to Wisconsin. And it felt really good when they came in. But the homesickness is real. That's a really good point. So hire the local talent, and then, man, hiring for the future self, that's such a big thing. That's really about you kind of seeing their full potential, right? Even if they don't.
Well, you want to tell some sort of story in there. We've kind of talked about this before, and just a good example of this, and I think anymore there's great examples of this, and we have clients that do a great job with this. But Enterprise Rent-A-Car, like when they used to do job fairs, is they would have these young kids come in and they would say like, hey, this is how we work, and just so you know, the CEO of the company started where you're going to start. And so anybody that comes in there is thinking, well, if I work hard, maybe I don't make CEO, but I could be a branch manager. I could be like, it's already embedded in their head because of the story that they've been told about the company at the very beginning. And so you got to have a story about somebody who started at, the ground level and moved up. And then along with that story, when you're interviewing them, you want to talk about the stuff that matters. Like they got married, they bought a house, they have kids, like whatever it is, like that represents progress and freedom. You want to tell that as a part of that story too, but you want to implant that as the roadmap, because people follow maps. Like if you implant a map, they will follow that map. And I don't mean to get too deep into psychology, but it's just a part of it. And then a map that is a story is twice as effective because we think in stories. So, and it's just what Enterprise did, right? They just talked about.
I thought it was so brilliant when you told that story. That was good. I also think that like there's a huge lesson here, is that like the story starts at the interview. We think about like bringing people into our family, like it starts on the hiring. It doesn't. It starts on the interview from that moment forward. That's a
when
pretty
you can
big,
tell in
profound
the
thing.
interview, right? If you're telling that story and then you qualify, you're like, tell me about your parents. And, if they're relating to the story, then that's a person that falls into the overall story you're trying to create for the business. And if they're like, I just want to play video games and smoke weed, probably not the kid.
Yeah, they might not have the ambition.
But if they get excited and, they sit up a little straighter, or they become more active in the conversation when you're telling those stories, that's something. I mean, It's not everything, but it's something.
I feel like there's a bunch of kids out there that are responsive to that stuff.
Oh yeah.
It's
for sure.
Yeah.
But we're just not good at telling the story.
Yeah,
we're leaving it to
them.
them. And then we sit around and we're like, well, these kids nowadays, and it's like, well, we're the ones in charge. Like, why don't we create a scenario where it's a win-win?
Yeah, I agree with you. All we're doing is making it better for them.
Then the next one just goes along with form equals function, in a sense, is if you want to grow technicians, the environment and the system that they're functioning in has to breed to that, right? And so, in most dealerships, you hire a quick lube tech, they go to the quick lube and they're surrounded by quick lube techs. That is not an environment or a form that's going to progress function. It is almost, in a sense, a dead end, really.
The worst is when it's the quick lube building.
Yeah, it's like, let them all fight it out and we'll see who makes it.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, they create their own culture, their own mindset, and none of it is about progress. And none of it has the influence of older, more qualified veteran techs. They're rarely interacting. And so, the system that we put in place breeds this, in a sense that we put the quick lube techs in the shop, not isolated. They're next to and report to a team leader who's a veteran tech, who helps them with their inspections. That lateral support group gets the work. And so you're teaching them, that, hey, inspection sheets matter. And when you fill out an inspection sheet and the work gets okayed, our group benefits from that. You're just teaching them business. Like, this is how capitalism and business works, in a sense, is like the system has to be built or designed for the outcome that we want. And if the outcome that we want is we want to capture whatever opportunity is there on the vehicles that we're working on, and we want to grow our own technicians, then the system needs to do that. And the quick lube system, the way that most consultants or manufacturers do it, is exactly the opposite of that. It doesn't, you don't grow your own. And it, and then the other thing that will happen that I've seen, and, frankly, we've been guilty of this in environments that we have difficult customers that don't, that are just locked into a way of doing things, is then it's like, oh, well, we'll hire a tech to oversee the quick lube, but the efficiency drop. It's just
an expense.
Yeah, it's not a straight line, and they still don't see the benefit of the work, in a sense too. It's more when you design a quick lube the way that they're designed, it's all about speed and not about quality. And the thing that's rewarded is speed, not quality.
Yeah, which the faster you are, the worse it is at the end of the day. I was just talking to somebody today about that, and I said the manufacturers, like, at the end of the day, I think that they had good intentions. They thought they're listening to the customer, and I explained to him, and he's like, well, I can get 2 people on the car, and I started to talk to him about like that in itself, like it's a fallacy that 2 dudes do it faster than 1 guy, and then the end of the day, what we're missing is that the faster we do the oil change, the more it becomes a commodity. It's just something you're walking into Walmart and buying off a shelf. And like, the further we can get away from that, the better off we are.
I would say too, is the faster we do it, the quicker we become the constraint, because you get so busy doing this loss leader that you can't keep up with the volume anyways.
Yeah, and it's almost a punishment if you sell something because you're missing the dopamine hit of getting
Form
the car
equals
done
function.
fast.
Like the form is designed around speed and not around quality and relationships.
Yeah, I never thought about lateral support as a life lesson, but it is.
Yeah.
In the environment that you create and that like you would have people you aspire. Yeah, that's it's way more than just turning wrenches.
I mean, too, just for us as a company, like we're running that system on our back end as far as growing our own coaches and all that. Like it just works. Like it works to throw people in the mix, to have them a part of the mix, not to have them isolated and specialized. When they specialize, they become specialized in that. So if you just specialize, then you're just a quick lube tech. And then you don't think there's a career path.
That's right.
And you don't get the influence from the guys that are making really good money, that are making time, because also the other part of it is a quick lube really most of the time isn't your margins are so thin. Even if most quick lubes run at like 50% efficiency, but even at that, even if you got a quick lube to run at 100% efficiency, it still isn't profitable.
You're not collecting enough per hour for it to make sense.
Yeah, it has to be about maximizing the opportunity.
Yeah, I agree.
So form equals function. The system is what helps you get the quick lube techs to masters. Maybe more important than anything, I think. And then the other one that we came up with is just having a mentor. Like if you weren't doing lateral support and like they're, just saying like a Highline dealership where quick lube isn't a thing, like BMW, Mercedes, that sort of thing, having a mentor and the way to do it or the way we do it is you pair a younger tech up with a veteran and you give the veteran an override for the hours that the younger tech flags for 90 days or something like that. But what happens is then the veteran's vested in that technician and mentoring them. And the kid is learning because what the veteran is vested in is their performance.
Yeah.
And what happens is if you give those kids as assistants, and you're not keeping track of what they're flagging and the other tech flags all the hours, the kid isn't learning anything. Because what we want to condition them to understand is how to make flat rate.
Yeah, I would say attach their identity to it, right?
Yeah.
And then I think the thing that you hit that's the most important for this to be successful is the timer. So there's so many times we'll go into a store and I've heard them not just apprentice, and I feel like this is almost degrading. They'll be called helpers.
Yeah.
Like talk about not attaching their identity to what they do. Like you just help to make sure this person's doing
And a helper
okay.
also insinuates like maybe I'll do this or maybe I won't, but it's not a career. A helper is not a career.
Right. So I think that's a big thing. We have to kind of change the focus. But man, if you put a timer on it and like you said, it's an override, not like you get everything that this person is, because what that person does matters.
Yeah, too, I was thinking about this when we were recording an episode of Books That Changed My Life the other day, and Rita was on. Rita, the photographer?
I think so, yeah.
Really good looking Swedish kid. He's been in here a couple of times taking pictures. I'm sure you met him.
I'm sure.
So he came on and he was talking about how growing up in Europe, the way that their education system works is that you only go to 9th grade. Then in basically in 10th grade, you're going to vocational school.
Oh, you got to make a choice.
And so he picked architecture, and then you go to school for a little while, but the year 2, 3, and 4, and half of year 1, I think the way I understood it, is you're working, being mentored. And so you're an apprentice, and then you're being taught by actual people in the field. You're working in an architecture firm. That's your schooling, is you're working in the business.
At like 16,
you're not sitting in a classroom for 4 years. Like, I don't know how many times I've sat with a doctor or a lawyer or people that have these degrees that went to college for, 6 years. And they're sitting there and they're like, nobody taught me how to run a business. I learned how to be a doctor, but I don't know how to run a business, or a dentist, right? And we don't, it's an odd thing that we make kids go to school until 12th grade. The education that we're giving kids ranks us like, I don't know, really low in the world.
Not even close to the top.
And we're spending all this money on schools that isn't getting us any results. And we don't have kids going into vocations because they don't want to be techs. They don't want to be all these different things. I really think an overhaul of our education system and having kids, be an apprentice and mentored in different lines of work is a way better use of their education than sitting in a classroom with somebody teaching them about a subject because that's the thing they needed to teach, not because it's the subject they're an expert at.
Someone came up with a curriculum that had to be done that had nothing to do with
ass backwards the way we do it. And you know what brought us into that conversation was like Sweden and those countries are always ranked the happiest. Like people are the happiest. And so I was asking him about that. Like, why living in America, why are we always, ranked as one of the unhappiest countries, even though we're one of the most, maybe the most powerful country in the world, but we can't educate our kids anymore. At one time, we were really good at education.
Yeah.
Like we valued it. We valued school teachers. We valued police. Like that's all, been flipped upside down. And hence our anxiety and how miserable we are for the most part. But I thought that was really interesting. And I think that just goes to what we're talking about with this is like, thinking about it in a different way to get an outcome. Or even what I said earlier is I'd rather win than be right. Right? Like I thought it was goofy to have all these different promotions for Quick Lube techs. I'm like, I'm a Quick Lube plus. I just thought that was goofy, but it works. And so if it works, now I don't think it's goofy anymore. Now I think it's cool.
And what else could we do to it? Because I feel like that was another thing is when you saw that it was working, then you gave us a couple of suggestions that made that even better. Like you might have added a couple of rungs to the ladder yourself just to do that.
Well, I just embraced it once it was working.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying is it just
try to understand.
If it works, then try to make the best of it, right? So I was just thinking about, as you're talking about the Europe thing, like I bet the statistics on take rate for career choice from 15-year-olds is better than 18-year-olds coming out of our system and then going to college and trying to choose a major. I bet it's infinitely
Let me say
better.
another thing about Rito too. Is he an architect?
No.
But he talks about that education in that time is like incredible. Like he was working in a business, learning, and at the end, once he got his degree and he graduated, he's like, yeah, I don't want to be an architect. But he saw it through and ends up like architecture applies to everything, and it applies to photography, design, like all kinds of stuff. It's all connected in a sense. And like, even like with my sister-in-law who's in college, she didn't know what she wanted to do. So I was like, just get your business degree. Like you can apply that to anything. And you can flip too. If you decide you want to be a doctor, you decide you want to do something else, but you'll never regret learning about business because it applies to everything, anything you want in life. And so, imagine you go and, in ninth grade, you decide you're going to be a technician and you work for 4 years and then you decide you want to do something else. You still have this experience and this knowledge that applies to everything because you've mastered something.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
raises your self-esteem.
Yes, it's the self-esteem of mastery.
Yeah.
Of something, right? Like, so we get these kids out of high school and they're masters of none, right? Now I feel like we've gone way off the reservation here, but it's okay. So I feel like STEM is headed the right direction, right? Like where it's like a science, technology, math, like a really strong focus, and you come out of that thing where those are like your main like competencies. But I agree with whether it's with technicians, advisors, kids, like let's get them a mastery of something and let's see where we can go.
Yeah. So number one is having a career path and selling it from the very, very beginning, having it outlined, show it to them, having lots of little wins along the way so they're progressing. Number two is the system has to drive it. Form equals function. And then the third one is having a mentor. But if it, if it was me, I would grow my own. I would never be hiring techs. And I say that from a perspective of we're really good at hiring techs. And the first thing we do when we go into a service department is hire techs, because you need additional production to increase sales no matter what. But it's a fix. It's a Band-Aid, a short-term Band-Aid, not a long-term solution.
Yep.
And it's the summer of fixed ops. Gas prices are low. People are frisky and traveling. Christian's going on some crazy road trip.
5,000 miles of beauty.
Isn't it more fun to put miles on a leased car than a car you're going to own?
Yeah, probably. But I don't drive a lot the other, 11 and a half months out of the year. So I'll be okay.
Yeah, it's great. Well, thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time on Service Drive Revolution. Thanks so much for watching this episode of Service Drive Revolution. We're uploading new stuff every day, so make sure you subscribe and click the bell icon so you don't miss out. If you have a question you'd like us to answer on the show, call 8333-ASK-SDR and we'll answer your question on the show. That's 8333-ASK-SDR. For special deals on our books and training, head over to offers.chriscollinsinc.com. Now that's offers.chriscollinsinc.com. I'm Chris Collins, and I'll see you in the next video.